Right, we're back here for part two of this interview with Steve Young, and I think I'd like to extend the love conversation, but take it in a slightly different direction. So I love music, and I know that you're a creator of an amazing back catalogue of music. And one of the things that I was reading in your book, you say some people have told me they believe music to be the highest form of alchemy. And also this really juicy phrase, well, music is immortal, timeless, and infinitely reproducible, and yet it can't be tarnished or degraded. Once the quality is established, it radiates through time like a crystal of sound in the cavern of the collective consciousness. Which,
Yeah.
which I've got like marked up as a really juicy statement. So I thought that could be like a really interesting thing to start off and explore because it's quite an exciting concept that you kind of outlined there. I don't know if that's a bit too cosmic to start off.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. Yeah, I haven't actually read my own book now for quite a while, so when someone quotes things back to me, I'm just like, damn, did I say that? All right. No, of course I remember saying that, but uh, yeah, well, music has been a big love and passion of mine for a long time, and um, I poured a lot of love into it, and yeah, I mean, now, I mean, I didn't understand this at the time. I was just doing what I thought, I was just following my dream, really, doing what I was passionate about. But in the years since, I've realized how music has this sort of like golden quality in the sense that it doesn't tarnish over time, right? It's like once the quality's been established, you've mastered it, you've released it, it's like it's just there. And short of some apocalyptic event to destroy all computers and hard drives and vinyls and CDs and everything, just total destruction of the world. Short of that happening, the music's going to live on. It's going to live on, and even if it's not stored on a digital or analog medium, songs are passed on from person to person through singing, through whistling, through performances, and so on. It's like a light which can be reflected again and again throughout the ages from one person to another to another. But this digital medium of storage essentially gives it potential unlimited reproducibility and unlimited endurance. People could still be listening to this music 100 years from now, and it would still be the exact same music. The same quality, everything. 1,000 years from now, potentially,
Hmm.
we look back in history, we're told that the first recorded music wasn't until about the 1850s. I can't remember the exact date. I think it's like 1854 or something. And they said they were like it was scratched on wax. They had this like needle which would like scratch it in wax or whatever. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that they had no recorded music before the 1850s. Um, you know, but then where is it? If they did, if there was any recorded music, where is it? Is it maybe like in the design of the cathedrals? Is it in the brickwork or the stained glass windows? Like encoded. Like some people say at Roslin Chapel,
Hmm.
all the little cubes. There's all these little cubes all over the ceiling, and each one has like a unique pattern on it. And they're saying that those are cymatic patterns, and the cubes are all different frequencies, and they all correspond with a song and everything. So yeah, maybe they were trying to record music a long time ago, but they didn't have the same technology that we do. So they put it into artwork, they put it into buildings. Of course, you've heard the saying that music is frozen, no, architecture is frozen music, right?
Okay.
And there is something very musical about cathedrals when you look at them. The way that every single edge and every single corner is worked to perfection. It has the curves on it or the little things like it. It's like that when you're making music. Like every single like microsecond of the song has been like carved to perfection. It's like a kind of sonic cathedral. But by the end of it, and you can feel that when you listen to it loud or when you listen to it on headphones. It is like you're actually like stepping into this sort of sonic cathedral type thing, this experience of 5 minutes or whatever it is where there's all these shapes and sensations, and yeah, it's amazing. And So yeah, I'm a big fan of music. I forgot what the question was now.
Well, it was just it was a kind of more general opener, just really about potentially saying it was the highest form of alchemy, or
Yes.
it most people will have some points of reference for listening to music, and I think it is a powerful thing, really, because it kind of works on a vibrational level. You know, we can create tones through our own voice as well. So I think it's kind of fascinating if we're trying to like strip it down to what is at the heart of it all, really. And because music at different volumes seems to affect us differently as well, doesn't it? If you hear music really loud, it seems to affect you as a human in quite a different way than, you know, a low level.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot of studying of sound. So your book, the chapter on audio alchemy, your mathematician brains got pretty deep into quite a lot of it, and I found that really interesting, because and so, do you want to talk a little bit about your understanding of sacred numbers, or kind of like the 432 hertz? You've done quite a bit of exploration in the book
Yeah.
around that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say with the what you said about music being the highest form of alchemy, that was actually Dr. Bear Lando that said that to me. And I had
Okay.
heard other people say it before, but it's quite significant coming from him because he has a full alchemy lab, like with he's got a garden and he does all kinds of alchemy with plants and herbs and distillers and like real like what you would consider real alchemy. So for him to say that he believes music is the highest form of alchemy is
Mm.
actually quite amazing. And I didn't think of music as being the highest form of alchemy. I kind of came at it. I was like trying to prove that it is a legitimate form of alchemy at all, because
Okay.
no one had ever said to me music is alchemy or making
Okay.
music is alchemy, right? And then I'm reading about alchemy while practicing music, and I'm like, hang on, it feels like this I'm doing alchemy here, even though it's not chemistry, but all the processes relate to
Yeah.
all the processes in chemistry. It's like a kind of dry chemistry or a kind of sonic chemistry, if you like. Um, and I could see how it all relates. So yeah, in those early days, my main thrust was just trying to get people to recognize that music production is a modern form of alchemy.
Okay.
Um, and it transforms. You're creating something, but also transforming yourself in the process. And that's what the alchemists would teach, right? So you're actually working on yourself. When you do work alchemically, you're working on yourself
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well as the art. Um, so yeah, so you were coming around to 432. Um, well, yeah, so I mean that just started as a curiosity, as a lot of these things do. You just hear about it online and then start looking into it. And the first thing that just kind of got me hooked on the 432 stuff, right? I mean, everyone I followed was saying it was bullshit, right? With the exception of a few people, everyone's like, "Oh, it's bullshit. It's just some hippie nonsense or whatever." But I look into it and I look at the actual numbers, just the number series, the series of frequencies in the 432 scale, and it's just beautiful. It's this beautifully harmonic number series, all natural numbers, like no decimal points or well, some decimal points, but whole fractions, right? Not actually irrational numbers that the
Okay.
decimal points go off forever. Um, so, and for me, coming from a mathematical physics background, right, elegance is important. When something is elegant, it feels more true than something which is like really complex and kind of like, just held together. Um, and so that's before I could say I would feel any different. Before I wasn't saying 432 heals. I wasn't saying, oh, it makes you feel super different. I just look at the numbers and I'm like, these numbers are way superior. The numbers in the 432 scale are way superior. They're more harmonic. They fit together exactly.
Mm.
Whereas in the 440 equal temperance scale, they don't. There's actually about a 2% um, error in the waves. So you get this beating sound in the chords in 440 music. Most people would never notice it again, and I'm not dissing music that's in 440 because there's lots of music in 440 that I love. But nevertheless, the maths, the numbers in 432 are much more harmonic and elegant than in the 440 scale. And so that just appealed to me purely on a scientific level. But then when I started then making music in 432, and there was a period where I was like going from where all my music was in 440 to then making more in 432. So I was playing both, and then ultimately got to the point where my sets are like all 432. But that took quite a few years to get to that point. But the transformation in my career in those years was quite striking as well, because it stopped being about just like raging and partying and like hedonism, and started becoming about like healing and actual like self-improvement, self-development and stuff like that, and started playing these ecstatic dances where it's a much more shamanic experience that people have there, where they don't talk on the dance floor, and they just dance. There's just one DJ for the whole event, and people will sit down, have a sharing circle after the event as well, and they'll talk about what they experienced during and everything. So completely different from like a club or festival scenario. It places a much greater responsibility on the DJ. um and yeah, so like it just everything sort of changed. And people will write to me and tell me about experiences they had, with the music, whether it's healing experiences, like emotionally healing or physical healing and stuff like that. Now, again, I don't claim my music heals, but I do get people writing to me reporting that they've had these breakthrough experiences in one way or another with the music. And um, that all happened after I switched to 432, right?
Hmm.
Before that, it was just like, rage and rave music.
Okay.
And, it's just about partying and having a good time. So yeah, it shifted everything really. Uh, yeah.
Is that do you continue your practice of like listening to 432 hertz music yourself as a sort of daily or weekly practice, or is that I'm just intrigued as to maybe noticing those changes. Do you kind of, is that part of your diet or sound wise?
Yeah, I mean, I can pretty much notice it now. Like, I mean, I don't sit and work on banging tunes all day anymore, like like I used to, but I do play piano a lot. So, electric piano and acoustic. Well, I say acoustic piano, but it's a digital piano.
Yeah.
And I can tell now right away if it's not in 432. Like,
Okay.
if I just play a few notes, I'll know immediately it's in 440. Um, because that's like the default setting. So sometimes, I mean, I have things set up for 432, but sometimes it'll be in 440, and I recognize it instantly now. Um, it's just, it's just a bit, everything's just a bit sharper than what I expect. Um, so yeah, practicing piano and guitar and everything, always play in 432. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel that do you I'm just trying to think about them. I mean, you talked about there's a fascinating part where you talk about certain musical elements also having the alchemical qualities, like the kick and the snare and those kind of
Oh
aspects.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's page 232. There's the kick and the snare are the sun and the moon of groovy.
Yeah.
And I just thought, yeah, it was really interesting when you picked up and attached kind of certain elements to,
Yeah.
yeah, because a lot of those elements are common in all different genres of music, aren't they? Kick,
Yeah.
snare, bass, harmony, chords. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's quite
Yeah, because the
fascinating.
kick and the snare, because yeah, so the music I was making, I would always like kick, snare, like
Okay.
it's so much music, right?
Mm.
It wasn't an original beat. I think it was like the standard like 8 beat, they would call it 8 beat on their synthesizers, like doo,
Okay.
tsh, doo, tsh.
Yeah.
I just loved that, and so I would make dance music based around that beat. Um, but yeah, like so the correspondence with the sun and the moon is pretty interesting. So the kick always has to come on the one and the three. It never goes on the two and the four. You can't have the snare before the kick. Like snare, kick, snare, kick. It just doesn't. it doesn't feel right. It does something strange to the body. It sort of like just sets you like out of phase in a way. And so like the snare would always be on the odd counts, 1, 3, 5, 7. Sorry, the kick on the odd 1, 3, 5, and the snare on the even 2, 4, 6, etc. But in like numerology, so odd numbers are masculine and even numbers are feminine. And there's this correspondence with odd is like Adam and Eve, even is like Eve. Um, and even numbers are said to be feminine because they're divisible by two, right? And a female, a female can split in two, right? But a male can't in the same way, right? So, um, and but also what I noticed is there's actually a similarity, and I didn't include this in the book, but there's a similarity between the audio spectrum of a kick drum and the audio spectrum of the sun versus the audio spectrum. No, forgive me, start again. The audio spectrum of the kick drum and the visual light spectrum of the sun have the
Yeah.
same shape. They have the same shape. And the snare, the audio spectrum of the snare and the audio spectrum of the moon have the same shape as well, right? It's like, because the snare is white noise
Right.
and the moon is white noise, yeah. Whereas the sun is golden, which is means it has low frequencies, and then the high frequencies come down, right? The sun doesn't have much blue in it or like those kind of colors. The high frequencies taper off. Same with the kick drum. The kick drum is like this pulse with all this low frequency energy, whereas the snare drum is like a white noise where it does have a low frequency pulse, but it has a lot of noise and chaos around it as well. Similarly, the moon is a white noise. It's kind of gray and white in its appearance, so it has a similar spectrum to the snare drum. So yeah, there's a correspondence there in the numbers, but also in the actual shape of the frequency spectrum itself between the kick and the sun and the snare and the moon.
Mm.
Um, and of course, snare means trap as well, right? Snare is like something that holds you, and things that hold you are feminine. That's like ships and boats and houses and all this kind of stuff are feminine in languages that have gendered nouns. Containers are always described as feminine. So the snare is like a container, whereas the kick is like a pulse, like
Mhm.
a punch. Um, so yeah, there's just interesting things like that. And then yeah, with the elements all correspond as well. So you have the four elements: fire, earth, air, and water. We see like the water in music corresponds with the bass and the harmonies. So the bass, like the long low notes, right, that really like move the liquids in the body. But also the harmonies, because the harmonies follow the bass. It's like as above, so below. Like harmonies are harmonies of the bass. And this all really moves you. So the bass creates emotional movement in the body, but when it's harmonized, it makes it even more emotional. It can really like bring you to tears and stuff with people singing together in harmony. Um, and if you take the bass out of music, like if you take out the actual sub bass, it loses its emotional quality.
Mm.
It loses its danceability. It loses a lot of things when the bass is taken out. Um, so yeah, the bass corresponds with the water, and then the rhythm corresponds with the earth.
Mm.
And you can see how rhythm is kind of earthy. It's usually made from drums, right? Made from like wood and sticks and leather and this kind of thing. It's a very sort of earthy, and it's the lowest frequency in the music as well. So the rhythm is a lower frequency than the bass. Um, and then we have the air, which is about the melody, which is the melody is really the replacement for the voice.
Right.
Melody is designed to mimic the voice. We talk in melodies. We go up when we're excited and we go down when we're sad or whatever, right? And melodies do the same sort of thing. So there's an air correspondence there between melodies and air. And then the fire, well, the fire is really the dynamics and like the hotness or the energy of the music. We can sort of relate to that. Some music is very fiery and it like gets us like worked up. It's like good for exercising or that kind of thing. Whereas other music is not so fiery, and you might, put it on rather for, getting to sleep or relaxing or a more somber occasion like a funeral, things like that, right? It's like you're not
Mm.
going to have super fiery music at a funeral, for example, uh, so yeah, so I start to find how, yeah, all these things correspond in music, and I tried to, put that together as completely as I could in the book, in the audio alchemy chapter.
Yeah, I think with all the different elements that you're describing, it kind of makes sense that actually when you hear certain types of music, you may be processing loads of molecular things about um, bass, emotion, frequency, the masculine, the feminine. So it's all kind of speaking to you in lots of ways about who you are at the very kind of root.
Yeah,
So I think it's fascinating hearing you chat about breaking it down, but then also thinking just about what might be happening when you're listening to music. I tend to be quite picky about music and what music I listen to, and I think it's like a fascinating journey just to like feel out your relationship with sound. Um, have
yeah.
have you heard of the scientist who's called Alberto Tomatis, who he wrote lots of I think a book called The Conscious Ear, and he seemed to think that bass frequencies discharged you and higher frequencies charged you.
Huh.
And he had quite a lot of scientific experiments and successes around that. But I had a test once with somebody who was a practitioner of his, and I get quite excited by bass. And so when you were talking about the sub bass and that relationship, I think for me, I find it charges me up at bass frequencies, or it certainly does something to my kind of a
Hmm.
molecular self. Yeah.
Yeah, I the first time I got a subwoofer for my studio wasn't until about 2018, after I got back from my travels and living in Hawaii and stuff, and came back here and built this cabin. So I'd been working I mean, I'd had good speakers and stuff over the years, but I'd never actually just had a dedicated sub speaker, and when I got that, and 10-inch sub, and I went and listened through my music, it was like, tears were flowing from my eyes, right? Because you go out and play gigs and stuff, and it goes off. The music sounds great when you're at the gig, right? Because of course they have these massive subs at the
Yeah.
gigs, right? But you come back and listen to it in your house, or listen to it in the car, and listen to it, it's maybe not as satisfactory. You don't feel it as much. But yeah, when I finally got a subwoofer in my studio, and I just connected it and got it balanced properly with the left and right, and then just started listening to all my old music, I was like, tears were streaming out my eyes. I was like, this is actually good. You know what I mean? Just like, it really is good.
Yeah.
Because that bass just yeah, it just moves the waters in the body like so much more. It's really important aspect of enjoyability of music, really, is to have that bass properly represented.
Sure. And I mean, what's your take on scientifically the magic of what happens when it gets to volume to a certain level? Because there's something quite amazing about uh, that vibration. I don't know whether it's a vortex thing, but going through air,
Mhm.
there is something quite incredibly special about music. You know, there's a deep form of human spiritual communication going on there. But I think when it's at a certain volume and there's a group of people, and sometimes people are dancing in sort of similar ways to the same music, there's something I think really ancient or ancestral there that seems to be getting triggered. And I wonder what your take might be on that particular aspect of volume or vibration.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love it, man. When a harmonious dance floor is like, it's just pure gold. I mean, I lived for it for a long time. It's rare I get to do it now, but um, when everyone's just dancing, and as I say, with the ecstatic dances, when they're also not talking, like, what a profound difference this makes, not only for the DJ but for the actual, like, punters as well, to come on. It's a quiet dance floor, right? Now, it's obviously not quiet, the music is loud, the fact that the people are not making any sound. I mean, they can, like whoop and cheer or whatever, but they're not talking, they're not shouting at each other. Um, it creates this kind of stillness, and the detail of the music is much more apparent in the air. And people are more often dancing with like their eyes closed and things like that. They're really getting into their own personal expression. Um, Whereas, I'd go and play in a club and you're up there playing and it's loud, but at the same time, there's just this wall of sound of human noise just coming back at me, like
Okay.
from there as well. And sometimes it's so loud, it's like half the people on the dance floor are like drinking beer and shouting in each other's ears, and it's
Right.
bouncing off the walls and everything, and I can hear just how it competes with the music. But then
Okay.
you go and play like an ecstatic dance, and like no one is making a peep. The music, it's so clean, and it's absorbed so much better, and they have so much more of a transcendent experience. And I mean, in terms of the loudness, well, there is obviously it can be too loud or it can be too quiet. I mean, you've just got to find the right sweet spot for the venue um, you're in. But yeah, I mean, when it hits, it just hits so good. And
Uh,
you know,
uh, uh,
sorry, I started getting my
Sorry,
voice.
voice.
I'm getting
I'm
echoes
getting
coming back
echoes.
to me now.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you're fine to me, Steve.
weird. I just started getting my voice coming back.
Okay.
Oh, it's gone. It stopped. All right. Um, yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, maybe with the volume, then it's like, uh, well, it's the size of the waves, isn't it? It's the amplitude of the wave. So the music contains frequency and wavelengths, but it's the amplitude is the volume. So I think it really just it's the depth of the experience, the size of the uh, emotional response that you have, the level of ecstasy increases the ecstaticness of the music when it's louder. And when there's other people around you and they're all smiling and dancing, and yeah, there's just this wonderful unity that happens on a dance floor when things are done right.
Yeah, it's one of those powerful things, isn't it? I think that again, it's quite tricky to put your finger on exactly what it's about, but that collective dancing, that collective connection that sometimes people can have in a dance, it's like one of those things I love. I think it's when it's right and there's the right setting and the right music, it's quite a mystical kind of way that transcends. It can often lead to states of unity on a dance floor that might not exist outside that particular environment, so the music can be really quite transformative, which is
Yeah, well,
something.
I think there's an alchemical marriage that takes place in that setting as well. Um, so again, if you go back to like the core definition of masculine feminine energy, it's about the direction of flow. So masculine or positive energy is outward flow, when something is being ejected, let's say. And feminine is inward flow, it's receptive, like receiving, absorbing. And
Mhm.
so in that setting, you have, the DJ is fulfilling the masculine role, the DJ and the speakers and everything else, right? Because that's like putting the sound out. And then the dance floor is feminine in the sense that it's receiving the frequencies and
Yeah,
expressing them back out. But then, of course, the DJ is then seeing everyone dancing. So there's a feedback, right? It's a feedback loop that's going there. But um, that is again another example of where the masculine and feminine energies come together to create something beautiful, right? If there's nobody on the dance floor, there's no feminine to receive the frequencies, and if there's no DJ, or then there's just a bunch of people hanging out in the room, and it's not going to be as much fun as it would be if the music was there. You see, so it's like, yeah, you notice that when at the end of parties, sometimes you're having the most amazing time at this party or whatever, everything is great, and then it's like lights on, music off, lights on, and suddenly you're like, I need to get the hell out of here. This place is, you know, it's like the harmony's gone now. It was just there while the music was there. Um, yeah.
yeah. Sounds like you've had some great times with your musical creation. Where are you? where are you going next with your kind of journey with like being an author and a writer? Is that I think last time I spoke to you there was some little micro thoughts about a follow-up book. Is that still sort of on your horizon or?
Yes, I've got a lot of inspiration at the moment, and a lot of different projects that I'm working on. I would like to write a second book. Yeah, that's in the pipeline. I'm also working on a course as well, like looking at hermetics in view of the scientific paradigm, the new scientific paradigm, if you like. And I'm also working on some new products as well. I'm working on a calendar, an Alchemy calendar, which I'm quite excited about. And I've also got a new podcast in the works, which is quite exciting. So using AI, I have created a chat bot based on Hermes Trismegistus. So
Okay.
I was able to train the AI on the hermetic material, so like on the emerald tablet and the corpus hermeticum, and because a lot of this alchemy stuff, I mean, all the alchemy I learned from hermetic books, and in the hermetic books, they always credit Hermes, this ancient sage from Egypt, as being the source of the alchemical wisdom. It goes back to the emerald tablet. So there's tons and tons of books about Hermes and books attributed to Hermes, and lots of books written about Hermes. So a huge amount of material out there. And so with the AI, I set it up so as to basically adopt the personality of this Hermes Trismegistus, and then I use it to basically do alchemy research, and it's been absolutely amazing. I'm really enjoying the responses. I'm learning so much, getting a lot of wisdom and alchemical knowledge through this method. So I thought, how am I going to share this with people? And I decided to create a podcast. So where I would dialogue with Hermes. So I synthesized a voice for Hermes, and then I've created now a podcast where I'm dialoguing with Hermes. But it's all produced. It's got like effects and ambient music and everything else. A fully produced like audio experience, with music and sound and ancient wisdom. And I'm trying to make 7 episodes of it. So I've done 2 already. I'm working on the third one. I'm trying to get 7 episodes done, and then I'm gonna release that to the world as well.
Cool. It kind of intrigues me. I think I saw you do like a bit of a YouTube thing the other day when you were doing something about the puffer and you mentioned your use of AI. I think for
Oh
me,
yeah,
I've
yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty a lot of the things that I've liked about your book and some of the things we chat about are kind of very much about being human and the magic of being human, and I struggle with the kind of AI as a kind of tool. Yeah, it deeply worries me. Like the kind of so I think that is something that yeah I feel um pretty suspicious about, like AI and giving lots of information up to that kind of sort of field of information. So on a human level, it really doesn't sit well with me. But I wish you all the best if that's your pathway of exploration.
Yeah, it's
Um,
another one of these divisive things that, yeah, yeah, a lot of people just like you'll lose people if you work with AI. But as I say, I've got an article coming out about it this month. But I just find it like eminently useful. I mean, it's just couldn't couldn't continue working with computers in the way that we have been because it's just so clumsy and there's too much information to process now. It's like let's just say AI is really the natural um, culmination of software is basically to a point where you can actually like program the computer in English. You don't have to learn computer languages to do it. So that's essentially what it is. It's an app that lets you program the computer in English, and it's amazing what you can do with it. But again, they're these a lot of these AIs they're controlled right by corporations or they have they've been
mhm.
programmed by government. But you can unlock that. You can program an AI to on whatever training material you wish and have it adopt whatever rules you want. So I kind of see it going a bit like Star Wars, in Star Wars, like everybody had their own droid. Like everyone's got their own droid that they've like configured in their own way. I feel like it's like going to be like that, but not with robots, but with software. People will
Yeah.
have essentially their own assistants, their own software assistants.
Mhm.
And well, I mean, it's already happening. But yeah, I just chose to do mine on Hermes. I thought it was like the perfect sort of test case because there's so much material attributed to Hermes that it gives the AI a lot to work with to actually, adopt that personality. So anyway, so it's an experiment. It's definitely an experiment, and I'm sure some people will be like, I can't listen to this or whatever. But it's full of wisdom and really good audio. I'll promise you that.
Yeah. And do you think the only thing that I was thinking of in relation to that is like, do you think in it some ways that there's a risk that you might project something onto? Do you remember like, when I was thinking like before when I read your book, you were talking about like debunking scientism, and you were explaining all that in the first half of your book, and when you've kind of gone over to alchemy, is there a risk that you might try and take one way of thinking, which was okay, and then you might transfer it over to AI and go, well, I'm going to put all the trust that I put into science into technology and computers. Is there a risk there, do you think? Because
No, okay, it's not an authority. It is a tool, and you can always ask AI to reveal its sources if it tells you something. And so I don't really see it as like an authority. I just see it as a tool for gathering information online and presenting it back to me. But you can get it to deliver the information in a particular style or based, in a particular character from history, let's say. So I mean, that's really all I'm doing there. Say I synthesize the voice for him as well. But it's just a way of delivering information, in a way that's, pleasing audio experience. I try to do some audio alchemy with it, not just release just a conversation between me and a robot. But yeah, because it's really a valuable tool for researching alchemy. I was reading Hermetic books when I was writing my book, and I would not have thought 2 years ago that I could be able to do what I do now to actually like, you know, to have this Hermes, chatbot basically trained on all this old alchemy books and I can ask anything I want and it's like pulling it out for me. So it's pretty amazing when you think about it. And it's what I realized is it's actually part of the alchemical dream is the creation of the homunculus. Now, the homunculus is a thinking being born not of flesh and blood, but born of art and science. And it seems to me that AI is actually the ultimate fulfillment of, an alchemical dream that goes back like hundreds of years. It's a thinking machine. And I'm not sure I'm not sure we'll be able to just avoid it, I think is what I'm saying. Um, but
well,
so I'm trying to
I
use it in
guess,
the best way I can.
yeah, I guess my summary take would be that there's lots of ways AI will never be human. They won't experience love, they won't experience compassion, they won't experience vibration ever like we have. So I think yeah, that's my kind of perspective as
Sure.
some of the things that it doesn't have. But yeah, thanks for I need to keep an eye on the time because I think the call's about to kind of come to an end. But thanks you for the rich kind of tapestry of what you've shared in your time. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best going forward.
You're very welcome, Graham. Thanks for having me on again. It's been great chatting to you.
Yeah. Take care, Steve. Wishing
All
you
the
all the
best.
best. Bye.